Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from the Boneless Ones Back to the Grind out May 13th on Thunder and Lightning. The album has 13 tracks, 39 minutes in length, and this is the band's second full-length studio album after a 36 years hiatus. They are an American crossover band. As far as the design goes, I'm not a huge fan of this record from that specific perspective because it feels a little bit too stretched out, it feels too chaotic. There's a lot of versatility of sound and influences, and though that versatility of sound and influences definitely has an impact on how this album moves, on how this album is put together, it's an album that forces the listener to reset its expectations with every single track because you just never really know what's coming around the corner. Now, the positive in that is that if you don't like a song, there's going to be another one coming right after that you're perhaps going to connect with. There's a little bit of everything for everybody. I just wanted the album to be a little bit more streamlined, to be a little bit more balanced, and while there is versatility in it, I wanted that versatility to be a little bit more contained. As far as the soundscape is concerned, this album has a great sound because there is a baseline in terms of how these songs come across, in terms of the quality that they provide. The versatility and where they're going, that changes from track to track. The starting point, the finish line is never really the same for every single song. But the quality, the baseline of quality that they have, that stays very constant throughout all 13 tracks. And that gives the album some sense of togetherness. In my opinion, not enough, but it does give it some sense of togetherness. But the quality is definitely phenomenal. An album that lives off of that crossover thrash as the spinal cord, and then it infuses punk and hardcore and even just classic heavy metal and rock in order to have that versatility, in order to have that bigger, larger platform in which they can create more interesting songs, more dynamic songs, and really put forward all of their influences and everything that made them pick up their instruments and start off this band. Now, once I started listening to this record, there were a few elements that I wasn't surprised by because I came in expecting quality. But there were a few other elements that absolutely shocked me in terms of how good they were. The ones that I was expecting to see quality in them was definitely the drums. Chris is a great drummer, and I'm not expecting anything less from him but a great performance. He knows exactly what the songs need, and he gives the songs the substance, the texture that they're really calling for. He's really one of those guys that's able to ground the record, give it life, give it a heartbeat, give it momentum, and then explode when it needs to explode without necessarily overshadowing anybody else. The other element that I was expecting quality from was the vocals and lyrical content, and I got quality in both. The vocals are phenomenal. They're really the icing on the cake. They're not one size fits all from the first to the last track. Depending on where these tracks are going, depending on the influence, depending on the sound, depending on the style, depending on the lyrical content, they change ever so slightly in order to feel more organic with the track, with the overall construction, and with that lyrical content. The lyrical content is phenomenal. It's really a skateboarding style record. It feels almost like a diary of sorts. So it's an album that lyrically is very easy to connect with, specifically if you're around my age and you grew up skateboarding in the early 90s. This record is definitely going to hit home with that specific crowd. Now, the two elements that surprised me on the positive side is definitely the guitars and bass. Let me start off with the bass. I love the bass tone on this record, and I love that when it pops, it doesn't hurt anything around it. It creates a little bit more groove. It helps ground the record. It pairs up really well with the sound of the drums, but it doesn't overshadow. It doesn't stand out in a negative way. It stands out in a positive way. It doesn't pop every single track. You don't hear it necessarily in a predominant role throughout the entire record, but you can feel the presence. You can feel what's adding as far as quality is concerned. And like I said, when it comes into the forefront, doesn't hurt. It actually adds a life to the overall record, and that's not necessarily a thing that's easy to do. Specific for an album that has that crossover thrash punk sound, sometimes the bass comes in and it could distort a little bit of what surrounds it. It's not the case on this record. But the element that surprised me the most was the guitars. I don't know where they found this guitar player. Absolutely phenomenal. The guitar sound on the entire album is outstanding, is outlandish. Let me just start off by saying the guitar solos. The guitar solos on this record are something to be amazed by. I really ask you to listen to this record and pay attention to the guitar solos. They don't just sound phenomenal. They add so much power, so much strength, so much melody, so much life to the songs, always coming in the right place, with the right sound, with the right approach, in order to really elevate not just the quality of musicianship and the quality of sound that the tracks have, but also the atmosphere and the lyrical content that those songs are giving. But the melodies, the riffs, the chunkiness, the grooviness of the guitars, the more direct approach, the more rock and roll sound, a little bit of a darker tones here and there. Absolutely phenomenal guitar performance from the first song all the way to the last. I was floored with how good the guitars were, how outstanding, how much do they shine on this entire album. Now, overall, I enjoy this record. It feels like an album that has a lot of heart, a lot of emotion, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it. It comes across in the lyrics, it comes across in the songs, it comes across in the sound, in the construction, and it comes across in that versatility that you're going to see throughout the entire record. So this is an album that really going to resonate with the fans of the band. It's definitely going to resonate with folks that grew up skateboarding, that going to look at this album as a little bit of an anthem to their youth, an album that has a lot of energy, an album that's really well crafted, really well put together, has a lot of great qualities to them, and I just wish, like I said earlier on, that was a little bit more cohesive, a little bit more balanced, and not as streamlined. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I have to start with the second song on the record, We Ride the Night. This is a skateboarding anthem. If you're picking up that Thrasher magazine and you're reading it in your bedroom and you're thinking about grabbing that skateboard late at night and going for a ride, you definitely have this song in the back of your mind when you're putting your feet on that skateboard. When those Vision trucks hit the floors, you're really gonna feel it. When those bone wheels start rolling, you're really gonna feel it. So this is an incredible song from that perspective. It has a killer riff, it has killer vocals, it has that thrash metal crossover thrash metal sound, balls to the wall from beginning all the way to the end. It has an anthem vibe to it, an anthem vibe that really comes across well in the chorus and how the chorus is sung and how the chorus sounds. The solo is phenomenal. I was not expecting the solo on this track. I was expecting the track because it has more of that balls to the wall feel to it, to be a little bit more fluid, to have some punk influences in it. Throwing that solo there just made the song even better. Surprised me, but it surprised me in a great way. It's a track that still has incredible drums and bass, grounding the track, giving it some substance, giving it some thickness to it. Very intense, and like I said, an absolute skateboarding anthem. Next you have Tied to a Stake. This is a track that also feels like killer. It's like balls to the wall. It's another track that has that heavy crossover thrash sound to it, allowing the drums and guitars to work really well together in order to provide a lot of meat on the bone. This song has a lot of thickness to it. There are some groovy moments. It is a groovy song all around, but it's also about the movement. It's also about that grind. It's also about that heaviness that the song possesses. Even in the slower moments, this track still feels overwhelming with the sound, with the heaviness, with the power that it has. But it's nice to have those ebbs and flows so that the track doesn't feel linear from start all the way to the end. This is a song that when you look at it, when you look back at it, it has the DNA of the Bay Area thrash scene. You listen to this track and you see that scene. You go back in time into where everything started as far as thrash metal in that part of the world is concerned. Now, last but not least, I Wish You Were Beer. I love this song. This is the love song on the record. I'm not going to call it the ballad because it feels more like a Black Sabbath track than really a metal ballad, if you will. But there is some ballad in it, I guess. And when you wish somebody was a beer, I guess there is some sort of love in there. So it's a really interesting song. First of all, I love the lyrics. The lyrics were the first item of this track that really brought me to the song and made me realize how incredibly fun this track is. So the lyrical content is just outstanding. Then the piano that this track has really sets the mood. It sets that love song, that darker mood, that sense of speaking your mind, opening up your heart in a moment of weakness and telling everybody exactly what's on the inside. So this song has that beauty to it, and keeping those keyboards not just at the beginning of the track but then underlining them throughout the entire song was absolute genius, because it allows that mood to never really be impacted regardless of how heavy the track gets afterwards. And that mood also brings in that Black Sabbath vibe, because when the guitars come in, the darkness that the guitars have really sound Sabbath to me, have that Black Sabbath touch to it that really fits perfectly in the overall construction of the track, in the overall atmosphere of the track. As far as the guitars are concerned, beyond that, I have to say that this solo section on this track is 5 stars. Best solo section in the entire record. Phenomenal. There's not enough words in the English language to describe how good this solo section on this track is. It elevates the quality of the song. Talking about Black Sabbath, it brings that Black Sabbath vibe. It brings that classic heavy metal sound into the track. This song sounds so different than anything else on the record. It really stands out from a lyrical perspective, but more so from a musical approach, and that solo does a lot in order to make that song really stand out. This is it. The Boneless Ones back to the grind, out May 13th on Thunder and Lightning. Let me know your thoughts on the band. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.